All right, good morning, good afternoon to some of you. We are blessed to have no other than the one, the only, the living legend, Jimmy from Brooklyn. Jimmy, how are you, buddy?
Okay, I'm doing well, I guess. A little nervous here.
No need to be nervous. You're amongst friends.
Always
So
among friends.
you got some excellent information put together for us for this show. Um,
Yeah.
So go ahead and get into that. Folks, by the way, if you hear something thunking and banging around in the background while I'm doing the interview with Jimmy here, I am actually working on the flight simulator for a flight this evening over Iran, showing all of the locations there that have been hit. So don't mind any banging or anything of that nature if you hear it in the background. We're not going after a rat loose in the studio. It's just me moving stuff around. So with that, Jimmy, it's all yours, buddy. Tell us what's going on with these radical commies.
Well, we have this radical mayor, this radical somebody supported by radical Muslim groups, including terror groups, supported by Communist Party, Communist Movement. Of course, that's New York Mayor Mandami. It turns out his wife, they found some things she had said or posted in the past where she seemed to be praising or at least denying the October 7th attack in Israel, saying it was overplayed or it didn't happen. So there's a little heat on that now, but this is exposing these people are both communist and radical Islamists. This is the danger we're in. Now, all these years we kept saying we defeated communism, It's like people wake up, we defeated communism, but it's communist China. It's Putin's communist. When Putin sent the army tanks into Ukraine, they had the communist hammer and sickle. But see, the media, even the conservative media, downplays that because it kind of hopefully weakens the illusion that we defeated communism. So I want to show how a little bit back in the past, how the communist movement got up to the strength now. I'm going to try to get something in, of course, about Iran and Venezuela, because this is the first time there seems to be some kind of real... No, it's not. We tried other things in the past. We just failed. But this one now looks like it's a do-or-die situation worldwide. But at least some people are waking up that we have foreign enemies. I don't know if the people waking up know enough, though. That's what we're going to try to work out here. And hopefully people that learn here spread the word, this station, this website, whatever else is going on here with Lee. We have a good group of people here, loose-knit group, and between all of us, I think we have the understanding better. I'm not that strong or as aware or knowledgeable on the military and weapons part. Mine was just more of the political warfare propaganda, because that's the enemy's strength. They're winning. They were winning at that level. And now there's a military confrontation where the whole world could be changing. Hopefully for good, but we don't know yet. Anyway, so we get ready now, Lee. I could start here. What I want to...
Yes, sir. It's all you, buddy. It's all you.
Okay, let me first say here, now, the weakening of the Soviet Russia, the illusion was in the late 80s and early 90s. And then a lot of things happened after that where we really thought we defeated communism. At least that was the official position. And the communists claim that each group is separate, all that stuff. So here in 1981, this is going back now to 1981, this is the leaders of the American Communist Party. There is no way anyone can unlink the Soviet Union or the other socialist countries from the world revolutionary process. So in this publication from the leadership of the American Communist Party, they're saying that the Soviet Union and other socialist countries cannot be disconnected from the American movement here. So it's an acknowledgement by the communists that it's a world movement and the Soviets were the leaders. Okay, so this is 81. Now, a process is step by step. You go to first grade, second grade, third grade, all the way up high school. So everything is a process. So that's 81. So now when Gorbachev comes to power, see, I'm skipping a few years here because it'd be quite boring if we go year by year. Okay, so that was 81, and here's 86. This is Gorbachev in 27th Congress, Communist Party of the Soviet Union. So this is the plans of the Communist Party going up to the year 2000 and beyond. Okay, so 1986, they're already saying this is what they're going to implement from the year 2000 on, or up to 2000. So they're talking about the media. They want to get control of the media. So everything, the Communist Party in every country, everything, they have to influence mass movements, mass thought patterns, and mass trends. All of a sudden, there's a fad about cutting little children's genitals off. These things just don't come out of nowhere. And anyway, so here's what the Gorbachev's people are writing in 1986. Now we think that we're winning, that the communism's fading away, that he's getting rid of communism. But listen what they say that our side ignored. So when I read the Congress, it sounds like the American Democrat Congress. No, when I say Congress, this here what I'm reading is actually the Communist Party, Soviet Union, the Congress. The Congress notes the growing role of the mass and propaganda media in promoting the party's economic strategy, its social policy, and in cultivating the socialist consciousness. It regards television, radio, and the press as powerful vehicles of publicity and instruments of public control. We must use the mighty ideological potential of television more effectively and heighten the impact of the entire propaganda and information complex. And it goes on like that. Now, there's nowhere else that there's any party like this anywhere. This is the Communist Party in America. They acknowledge that it's a world communist movement, and they acknowledge that the Soviets are the leader of it. Now, of course, the Soviets say could collapse, and on our side says Red China is the main threat. It's a world communist movement. It's like one communist party that's in several countries simultaneously. So we went from 1981 saying that the Soviet Union and the communist movement is connected. Now you see that it was communist connected here. They're talking about getting control of the media. And when I write this here, this means worldwide. This does not mean just in Soviet Russia. But this is the type of thinking and planning they have. They set out grand schemes, grand projects. Now, the political, cultural, and social projects they do, they work. The operations, the structures work. But when they do the planning, like for the economy, that doesn't work. So people see socialism, the good guys, the conservatives, people see socialism that the economic part doesn't work. So they don't fear it. But they don't understand. The socialists, just the communists, they have weapons and they have other paths to victory. Before this, it was mostly through the media and culture, in writing. And now we're getting to the part where we have armed citizens rioting across America. We have foreign enemy agents, a mass movement where the enemy is inside and outside the country. And now Trump is trying to fight back, but it's in a way, it's like trying to hold back a hurricane coming in three different directions, a tornado, a tidal wave, and we're in the center of it as a small island. That's to me, the degree of the danger from the enemy, their position now. So from 81, they said you can't disconnect the Soviet Union and socialist countries from the world revolutionary process. That's from the world communist movement. Always acknowledge the Soviets were the leaders. It was the Soviets that turned China communist with help from American communists in our government. So here they're talking about getting control of the media and do all these things. Now, so I'm making the case that it's the opposite's true. We didn't defeat communism. Communism was on the verge of defeating us. Those kind of strategies where we believe the opposite, that's actually the strategies of Sun Tzu in The Art of War, 2,500 years ago. Look at the similarities here. Sun Tzu wrote that armed conflict is the most primitive form of warfare. That's a general comment, but that's immensely important. And then if you do the study like I do, armed conflict, okay? So you don't have armed conflict, but you have the drug wars, you have the social, cultural, political, economic war going on. You've got the race problem promoted. You've got the drug addiction policies that break up families. You got people dying in the street of cold here with Madame the mayor. We are being torn down and worn down inside. So that's not the military part. But That's the cultural war, okay? But now we're getting to the point where there's actually combat going on and looks like preparations. Okay, so I showed you from 81. It looked like they're bragging about their power, all the communists united. Then I brought you up to 86, Gorbachev talking about getting the media and everything straightened out. It goes on further. I just gave you what I call a nugget. Okay, so here in 1989, so from 86 we jumped to 89. This is a Soviet publication. It's printed in every language. This is sent to every single country in the world. I'm not sure if they send it to the North Pole and South Pole, but every country, any place where people live that have a name, that have maybe running water and electricity, they would all be getting this. This is a world movement. This stuff is printed in every language and sent all around the world. The leadership of the communist parties of the world read the same thing. It's written in their language. This is how they keep abreast of what's going on. With the meetings and interconnections they have, they could alter or change policy. They could create illusions. They could create delusions. It's a worldwide operation. It's like a con artist group with very good con artists. Imagine totally trained, made to be the best at it, and then have them in every single country all working for one goal. This is the situation we're in. So here, this is from 1989, 3 years after what I read from Gorbachev in 86. And this is about the communists working in Latin America. And it's titled Beyond Traditional Parliamentarism. But let me read here. I hope my reading is good, people. Listen here. This is a Soviet published publication. This keeps you abreast of what's going on all around the world, from the Communist Party, Socialist, Labor parties, which are all working together. Again, this is 1989 World Marxist Review. Popular rule in the light of the new political thinking is one of the subjects in the focus of dialogue and unfolding between the communists and social democrats today. So they're bringing together communists and social democrats. So that groups like the Democratic Socialists of America. So to a communist, social democrat, everybody knows that's communist. But here it gives the illusion that it's like a broader movement and it's not all communist parties. So this is unfolding between the communists and social democrats today. Recently, Soviet scholars and representatives of the more influential Latin American social democratic parties met at a seminar sponsored by the Communist Party of the Soviet Union in Moscow to discuss the democratic alternative in Latin America. Again, the communists say democracy is ruled by the people, and the people are represented by their communist parties. So when they say democratic alternative in America and it's meeting in the Soviet Union, this is planning and arranging in 1989, 3 years after Gorbachev came on the scene big and got embraced, and looked like the communists are getting weaker, maybe more friendly, maybe on the verge of collapse. But here in 1989, they're having a major meeting here. So it goes on here. It was arranged an interview with two of the participants, and it's in a Spanish name, a member of the parliament from the ruling Institutional Democratic Party of Mexico, and another name here, that's a theoretical training foundation of Venezuela Democratic Party. Also meeting here was the Colombian Communist Party. Then in here it says below is an account of their conversation. So Soviet publication, 3 years after Gorbachev had us believing that we're going to have peace. We really believed it. And here in 1986, they talk about getting the influence in the media. Before that, they said something in 81 that the Soviet Union is leading the whole thing. So now this I have here, World Marxist Review, 1989. This is about Latin America. So I read you kind of the opening paragraph. I hope I didn't butcher it. Now, I can't read all of this on the air. Okay, so it says here, restructuring and socialist thought in Latin America. Okay, here, you're going to like this. One can say that perestroika is the best thing that could have happened to the Communist Party of the Soviet Union and the communists of the whole world. We are seeing socialism merge with democracy, overcoming its unwarranted aloofness. It is a return of humanism and fusion of necessity and freedom. The Communist Party, Soviet Union, has carried out a searching and critical self-analysis, shed the harmful vestiges of the past, returned to the success of the freedom-loving revolutionary traditions of the socialist and communist movements, and thus ushered in a new phase in the development of world socialism and in progress towards communist ideals. These processes are evoking broad responses in Latin America and other parts of the world, and undoubtedly contribute to fresh successes in the struggle for democracy and socialism. Ultimately, it is perestroika that will help abolish the violence and achieve world peace for present and future generations. Then somebody else here involved in this discussion. I absolutely agree with Jose on this. Changes in the USSR, with its huge political, economic, and social influence in the world, can hardly be overestimated. Although in the past we were aware of Soviet Union successes in education, healthcare, and social security, there were always grounds for criticizing authoritarianism, dictatorship, and lack of democracy there. Now, Soviet perestroika will enable all the democratic countries and left forces in Latin America to better understand meet the aspirations of their peoples, who need not only higher living standards but also broader freedoms, democracy, and participation in politics. Far-ranging changes and the Far-ranging changes and the repudiation of dogmatism in the Soviet Union are now opening up great opportunities for the development of socialist thinking in Latin America. So, look what I just laid out there. This is like it's a case study. It's just a few facts put together. You could always interpret facts differently, but I try to give facts that there's no other way to interpret. Maybe by analysis and comments on it, you could debate. You're not going to debate those facts. So right here, I think I showed that the idea that we were winning against communism, but I showed you how in 81 they appear very confident what they're saying. They're bragging. It's in open print. I had access all over the world. It was something they wanted known. So they're talking about the strength and how the Soviet Union is the leader. That's basically what I read, I think 1981. And then I showed you in 86, Gorbachev, at that time under Gorbachev, in their own publications, Communist China and the Soviet Union are going to be working together now. We both celebrated each other's victory in the socialist revolution. I'm just remembering this. I'm not reading it. So this is what people have to know. So under Gorbachev 86, they openly ended the Russia-China split, which is pretty obvious to some of us that the original split was also fake. So a fake split was healed. The enemy's getting closer together. At the same time, we're embracing the idea that we defeated communism. What's the big threat today? It's Red China. It's the Soviets, of course, North Korea. It's Antifa. It's the majority, it looks like, of the Democrat Party in America. This is the danger we're in. Okay, so we got from 81 to 86 to 89. Okay, let me bring this to 1996. This is from the American Communist Party. Let me get here to the important part. This is Political Affairs, Theoretical Journal, Communist Party USA, March 1996. It's contract with America, and it's stamped with a black ink on top of that, so it's not in America. But apparently the American Communist Party had a meeting. And let's see. Well, they're writing here, of course, there are many other signs of changing mass thought patterns. This is also, I'm going to read you real quick before I get to what I'm looking for. There's a big thing here about getting Bill Clinton reelected. So they're right here. In fact, the November elections can be one of the most important in our history. And then it goes on somewhere else where it says, most important election ever, we have to do all we can to get Bill Clinton reelected. That's in here. So they also talk about having 100 permanent organizers in all 435 congressional districts in America. This is the communist, okay? The communists getting stronger as we're celebrating our victory. They have these meetings and they have a plan to have 100 permanent organizers, the communist movement, whether it's through union people, but 100 people in each congressional district. We have nothing like that. Even if we had 100 of our people in each district, you can't compare regular Americans doing a political campaign to communist revolutionaries. They work in a different way. There's different facts, there's different resources, there's different things they're involved in. This is not like a fair thing where we have fair elections and, we have freedom of speech, freedom to read, freedom of information. But the left gets control of all of that stuff, or at least heavy influence. So they get control, they change what people think. So when they write here about changing mass thought patterns, they write here that they're going to specifically hire 1,000 organizers over the summer months. This is just for a campaign. And in here, and that's not even to what I really wanted to talk about here. They write about changing mass thought patterns, but they also said we have to do all we can to get Bill Clinton reelected. But let me pass through that because there's some things here. We are now a party with much wider influence. We are united, right? Ideologically, politically, and organizationally. Our party has united front and coalition relationships with trade unions, trade union leaders, and with mass organizations, people's movements, and their leaders. The fact is that it's easier now to work as a mass communist party. But we defeated communism. You see how it's getting stronger? Okay. At this moment, talking about getting power in America and worldwide, at this moment it is mainly the electoral path, the ballot box, that the peoples of the ex-socialist countries are using for the return to socialism. Communists and ex-communists are being elected to top leadership posts in Bulgaria, Poland, Hungary, Germany, and especially in Russia. So this is from 1996. It goes all the way up and down. Oh, I didn't get here to the countries. So American Communist Party, but wait till you see. Oh, and they're fighting against fascism. See, so the communists calling everybody fascist. That's the Communist Party. But now the Democrat Party's doing it. That shows you the penetration of the minds of the people in the Democrat Party. The entire America's minds. You had conservatives like robots. We defeated communism. We defeated communism. The Soviet Union was defeated. They kept saying that. It was like hypnosis, and people believed it. And now people can't figure out what's going on. What's the threat today? It's a KGB leader that's in charge of a country that's attacking a friendly neighbor and trying to impose their will by force and threat of force. That's the old charge against the Communist Party, the threat of force. And it's doing it. It's one world Communist Party, basically. So they're attacking in Ukraine. And meanwhile, they're going in Ukraine, of course, according to the Russian side, to fight fascism. Here, the elections, the Democrats call us fascism. You see the left, you see? But there's something here when they get to the countries. Okay, here we go. This is a long list. Okay, I'm not going to read everything, but this is a Communist Party meeting in America. Okay, it's World Communist, Greet Communist Party USA. So let me again give you the date, if you could look this up or get a copy. This is Political Affairs, Theoretical Journal, Communist Party USA, March 1996. March 1996, Political Affairs. So, World Communist Greet Communist Party USA. This is a convention in America. The first Communist Party listed here, we're congratulating the American Communist Party and how we work together and everything. The first one that sent greetings was the Vietnamese Communist Party, Central Committee Communist Party of Vietnam. And, of course, Cuba. Of course, Communist China, even though there was supposedly a Soviet-China split. Here you got Communist China openly working with the Soviet-controlled communist movement, at least sending greetings, and also North Korea. So this is sent to the American Communist Party. Cuba, Vietnam, Communist China, North Korea. Send greetings and congratulations. Mongolia, Russia. Now, what's the Russian Communist Party say? To the American Communist Party celebration, Russian Communists write, "We heartily salute you, delegates to the National Congress Communist Party USA and to all U.S. communists. Our parties have been friends from the beginning and our relations tested by time. Soviet and American communists struggled together on the battlefields of Spain in World War II and against imperialism." So the Soviets were fighting imperialism and fascism, and the countries they were fighting are Soviet countries now. The last election to the Russian parliament showed that the majority of the Russian people agree with the economic, political, and cultural policies of the Communist Party of the Russian Federation. We wish you all the best and reaffirm the friendly relationship between our parties on the basis of internationalism and traditional cooperation. So that's the Russian Communist Party, Soviet, congratulating the American Communist Party that been working together since the beginning. Like, was that 1920, 1990? Doesn't say anything about stopping it. So I read the countries: Mongolia, Russia, Vietnam, of course, Bulgaria, Hungary, Slovakia, South Africa, Greece, Portugal, Spain, France, Germany, Ireland, Sweden, Norway, Britain, Finland, Denmark, Cyprus, Luxembourg, Canada, Mexico, Venezuela, Costa Rica, Colombia, Iran. You see that? Iran, Iraq, Syria, Israel, Jordan, Philippines, India. It goes on, folks. These are all sending greetings to the American Communist Party. The Communist Party in all these countries. So the communists grow as we're saying we defeated communism, okay? India. These are communist parties in these countries. India, Australia, New Zealand, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. Greetings from other parties and movements. That's Bangladesh, a lot of countries you never heard of, different groups. It goes on. These are countries that sent greetings. Some of them actually showed up here for the celebration, the American Communist Party. Added to the list, still going, is Romania, Vietnam again, Mexico again, Grenada again, Nepal, England again, Azerbaijan. Now, that's not frightening. There's more. India, Australia, New Zealand, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. Some of these were different greetings here, okay? Romania, Vietnam. Anyway, these are the countries that are connected. They're part of the World Communist Movement. Every single country has it, and they're connected. So when the American Communist Party has a celebration, the entire World Communist leadership sends greetings and congratulations to the American Communist Party. It says, we've been working together a long time. We were there together at the beginning, okay? So that takes us up a little later here. Now, in that Soviet publication I read from a little while ago, a lot of you people who've heard me know that I talk a lot on the radio and everywhere else for roughly 40 or 42 years. One of the big subjects was Antonio Gramsci. That's about fighting the cultural war. And in the communist publications describing Gramsci, sometimes they print nice little what I call nuggets, like this one. The ideological erosion of the bourgeois order at every level, social, cultural, political, economic, would precede the initiation of direct frontal assaults on the state. So 2,500 years ago, Sun Tzu in The Art of War, armed conflict is the most primitive form of warfare. So 2,500 years ago, when they were throwing rocks, shooting arrows, maybe catapulting the diseased animals or people over a fence, that was their warfare, and yet they considered that primitive. And then the communist right, warfare, the ideological erosion, social, cultural, political, economic. Those are four things the communists work at. They build mass movements and mass groups. It's Enviro-Leninist, Afro-Leninist, Homo-Leninist, Femi-Leninist, Islamo-Leninist, Judo-Leninist, Christo-Leninist, Narco-Leninist. So first they give you the idea that they're going to be real strong, that the communist parties are all led by the Soviet Union and the socialist countries. So that's 81. Then you get up to 86. Gorbachev is talking about the media. He ended the Russia-China split. He talked about strengthening the communist movement. Gorbachev took away the image of the enemy to strengthen the socialist forces. So all these countries here, because of what Gorbachev did, he took away the image of the enemy. That strengthened every one of these communist parties I just read you. And there's many more. These are just the ones that sent greetings and congratulations to the American Communist Party. You see the extent of this. And the leadership is highly trained, and they're gung-ho. Not everybody does things for money. These people are making money, but they're in this. This is big. More than the Christians that go out preaching Jesus as the Savior and going out and helping to save souls. These people are fanatics to communists. It's not like they don't like money. They got money. In fact, they own a lot of property. Now, okay, I think I did this. So anyway, in the same World Marxist Review I just read from, where they describe here, where is it? I was looking for something here. Anyway, I can't find it, so let me skip that. Now, the Communist Party in America is that I have here. Okay, so what year was that? The last one I read. Okay, I have another one of these same magazines. This is the report to the National Committee of the Communist Party USA. Gus Hall, National Chairman, January 17, 1998. Now, Gus Hall, National Chairman of the American Communist Party, when he ran for president, there was a guy that voted for him. The guy that voted for this enemy agent, Gus Hall, for president on America's 200th birthday, by the way, the guy who voted for this communist leader was John Brennan, who headed the CIA. Remember the Russian collusion hoax against Trump? So you have a communist connection throughout everything that's going on. James Comey, head of the FBI, admitted in college he was a communist. His wife and daughter participated in demonstrations in support of Angela Davis, the cop killer. That cop killer, Angela Davis, was running for vice president with Gus Hall, who was the head of the Communist Party, running for vice president, Gus Hall for president. So you could, every direction you look, you see the extent of this, every direction. It's social, cultural, political, economic. Now, when I read here, let's see. Okay, I read here from the political affairs. You saw all those communist parties. I have, what else is this here? Okay. This is new program of the Communist Party USA, May 1970. Now, they talk a lot about race. They have to destroy world imperialism. Then it says, the United States is not only imperialist, it is the most powerful imperialism in the world today, okay? I showed you the American Communist Party connected to all these other communist parties around the world, and these communist parties in their literature and writing, they all acknowledge that they're following the Vanguard Party, which is a Communist Party, Soviet Union. So Gorbachev takes away the image of the enemy, the communist movement gets stronger. And all along the way, they did not stop fighting. They talk here about peaceful transition to socialism. This is the thing the communists were pushing. So in the Soviet publications since around 1950, it's been in their publications regularly. It's the idea of peaceful transition to socialism through parliamentary means. That's the idea that they could wage a war without being armed conflict, okay? Armed conflict 2,500 years ago was considered primitive. There's other ways of war. The communists write social, cultural, political, economic. They write about working in the electoral process. They don't say they're going to be fair, but they know that in America people are used to elections. So they write that, this is how the enemy writes. Like they don't really care about elections, but they write things like, because a democratic bourgeois society like America, where people are used to voting, whether the voting was fair, whether the candidates were good, it doesn't matter. They feel like we're in a democracy. They don't feel any threat from this system. So we have to work to change people's opinion on the system. So then they do their work again, social, cultural, political, economic. They build a huge amount of sentiment against America. Everybody is described and taught that they're the enemy. Every group, they give the worst part of Puerto Rican history, maybe the Puerto Rican history in New York, make it local. They do Mexican Americans, Asian Americans within that, Chinese, Filipino, Japanese. They work in every group, and they find anything that was done wrong or by today's standards would be wrong to any one of those groups. The communist parties in those countries repeat that, keep drumming it in the people's minds. They build a big anti-American sentiment around the world. And when the communists penetrate all the culture, they also would be penetrating the religions. So now we have the communist movement. We said we defeated them, right? The American conservative media celebrities and political leaders kept saying we defeated communism. But now the communist slogans are coming out of the mouth of Democrats, calling us fascists, and they're fighting fascism. It was the communists who called both parties fascist. When the communists got influence or control of the Democrat Party, they call us fascist. They supported Antifa, who had the hammer and sickle on their helmets. They support George Soros, who's funding a lot of subversive movements around here. The whole world's in turmoil, and this guy is a big part of it, him and others, but Soros is the name we all know. He's funding all kind of radical stuff. So one of the things in the Soviet press, communist press, is the idea that they could have a peaceful revolution to socialism without a war. And that's when the communists take away the image of the enemy. It unleashes the communist movements and parties in every country around the world to do their work. There's less fear of them because there's no broader threat that people understood. They didn't see communism as a threat. Gorbachev weakened it and took it away. And our side not only said there's no communism, they kept saying we won, we won, we won. So American people were never really informed well. J. Edgar Hoover almost got destroyed, and what's his name? Senator McCarthy. Both were attacked and had their reputations destroyed because they had the audacity to try to stop the world communist movement. So you can see the progression here, and the idea of peaceful transition to socialism, Czechoslovakia was taken over like that. So here, I hope I find it here. Okay, again, this is a new program of the Communist Party USA, May 1970. It's a section to sum up. The exploitation of wage labor by capital leads to a struggle by the working class whose final goal is to abolish exploitation of man by establishing socialism. To this exploitation of wage labor, monopoly and state monopoly capitalism add the exploitation and oppressions of other sections of the people. See, everybody's a victim, and the victimizer is capitalism. The communists write and preach, push this, that capitalism is racism. To destroy racism, you have to destroy capitalism. So they work to get the blacks riled up, and then they open the borders and bring in people of color from all over the world who are taught to hate world imperialism, and then it's taught that America is the leader of world imperialism. Boy, this sounds like a hell of a string of coincidences here. So, hold on reading this here. This is about peaceful transition to socialism, the Communist Party main party program, working, with the Communist Party of Russia and the World Communist Movement and the Democrat Party. To the exploitation of wage labor, monopoly and state monopoly capitalism, and the exploitation and oppression of other sections of the people, leading to a many-sided struggle against all forms of robbery. That's the solution here, committed by monopoly capital. This is a struggle whose immediate purpose is not socialism, but restriction of the power of the monopolies, okay? So this is a communist movement, and they're saying basically here at this stage of the struggle is not for socialism. See, they're building a movement. There's a process. The people aren't brought up to the broader level of socialism, but that comes eventually, because that's the solution to every problem. We've got a restriction of the power of the monopoly, put it in the hands of the people. At its heart, it is a struggle to win control of the government and to use it for the benefit of the people, not the big corporations. This takes place within the framework of a great diversity of struggles, with a plural, diversity of struggles, okay? That's the black, that's the Hispanic, that's the Mexican Americans, that's the Native Americans, that's this, that's that, and that's the struggles, plus struggles around, this is a world level. These diverse democratic struggles alongside of and intertwined with the class struggle are objectively struggles against a common enemy, monopoly capital. Hence, as awareness of this grows, they tend to merge into a common stream of struggle, into a coalition of all democratic forces against the power of monopoly. The strategy and tactics of this fight for socialism is closely intertwined with the anti-monopoly struggle. So 1970, look how crazy they're sounding. So if you look here, the years we go through, you can see how this is a continuing movement. And now you have in New York, you have a guy who I think is pretty much openly known as a communist. He's got support from radical terror groups. There was this protest the other day, was in the papers here, was in the media, that there was a protest against Islamization. Now the group, I don't know who it was, I don't remember the name. I know nothing about the group that was putting together that protest against what they would see as the radicalization process among Muslims here. So this group, whether it's racist or not, I don't know, but they had a protest outside the mayor's office or the mayor's home. But a group showing up against this so-called white supremacist group showed up, and among them you had some radical Muslims with, it looks like, potential ties, the media said, to ISIS. What they did, they made two like a hand grenade. They had a bottle wrapped in black, like masking tape, and with screws and nuts and sharp objects in there, and some explosive. Now, it didn't explode. They did something wrong, thank God. So this is the communist and the radical Islam working together. The Communist Party in every country, okay? I read you all those countries that send congratulations and greetings to the American Communist Party. That was a lot of countries. A lot of countries. Now, that's the same movement that's working now all around the world. It gets stronger and stronger and stronger. We see in America, you had conservatives who were pushing the communist ideas. Ignorantly, I hope. They kept pushing, we defeated communism. So when anybody was warning about communism, people didn't pay attention. They had no fear. And even when communism was openly a threat, most people did not actually fear it. Some of it heard about it. They didn't know much about it. But within every country, I just read you here enough to show you how they work in every single country. They're all connected. They write these letters. They have these meetings. They have speeches. And when they have meetings, we had one here. Now, this ought to scare the daylights out of people. No, I'm not going to sing. Okay. This is Communist Party USA. Changing, growing, swimming in the mainstream. Okay, so the Communist Party, who acknowledges the Soviet Communist Party as their leader, that same American Communist Party gets greetings and warm congratulations and notices and things from these worldwide communist parties in every country. So here the headline of this American Communist Party paper: the Communist Party USA, changing, growing, swimming in the mainstream, okay? So when the communists write that yesterday's left is today's center, today's left will be tomorrow's center, they move the whole political spectrum to the left, little by little, year by year, 10 years, decade after decade. Now the Communist Party is swimming in the mainstream. It's growing, swimming, changing America. This is the Communist Party here, connected to all those communist parties I read a little while ago. And those communist parties acknowledge that the Soviets were their leadership. Now all these communist parties are also working with the communist Chinese, the Cubans. This is major. So this Communist Party USA, changing, growing, swimming. This is report to the National Committee, Communist Party USA, Gus Hall, National Chairman, January 17, 1998. So let me find you here. Let you see what your sons and daughters are up to. A mass communist party has been put on the stage of U.S. history. We can build a party of 500,000 by this time next year. That's the headlines. Okay, so this is written in 1998. But I told them I get to strengthen the unions. They got control of the major union here. They list some of them, the AFL-CIO. But there's something in here that this should scare the daylights out of people. Young Communist League, okay. This is in America. Young Communist League, the party is now just catching up with the pace of recruiting the Young Communist League, recruiting into the Young Communist League. For many months, students and young workers have been joining on the internet at the rate of about 2 a day. 600 youth have joined in 47 states since March, and every day 3 or more join them. Some joined as a result of being one of 800 delegates to the Youth Festival in Cuba. Okay, this is 1998. We won the Cold War. The communists are still working in Cuba, still have Cuba. This is 1998, they're writing this. American students are going there for training. Now, they're not learning how to finger paint. They're not learning how to make clay figurines. When people go to an enemy country for training, these people come back either as some form of terrorist or somebody working culturally, socially, politically, economically. You have a lot of professors that go here. They had a group years ago that every year go to Cuba, and that was the Vince Ramos Brigade, supposedly to help cut down sugarcane, pick crops, whatever else. But meanwhile, that was called the Vince Ramos Brigade. They sent groups in for training, and then they came out and helped make communist revolution in their country. This was a worldwide operation. There was one woman named Janetta Cole. Janetta Cole, a black woman, but her identity is she's communist, so she should be red, but the communists call the conservatives red, so see how they got everything screwed up. Janetta Cole was the head of the Vince Ramos Brigade, I believe, in New York. So she visited Castro on Castro events and flyers, pro-Castro events, or Castro himself coming here. There'll be flyers of events, and there'll be people like her endorsing it. So this is the trouble we have. 800 rather going, and now you have every teacher is pushing this crap. They got control of the teachers' unions. That comes down, filters all the way down through all the schools. Here's something else. Okay, same Communist Party USA. We have to learn to work more openly. We need some new, fresh, bold thinking on public presence and the Communist Plus. First, I think we have to adjust to working in a completely new atmosphere in which there are no more anti-communist laws, in which the party is truly, completely legal. Yes, we have to work in the U.S. political mainstream. You see this? And they have to work for structural change. This is the enemy. American Communist Party. This is their publication. And they're saying what we have to do. They have to work in the electoral arena. They have to work in the schools. They have to work in the media. They do all these things. They want to work in the electoral process. They concentrate on winning elections. Their partners overseas are building weapons and building ships and building all the forces you need for war. They're attacking war. Russia, the Soviets are attacking in Ukraine, murdering innocent people. This is going on since we defeated communism. So you see that Communist Party there is connected to this Communist Party here. And this Communist Party here who helped convince 800 young people to go to Cuba for training, this Communist Party now has control of the Democrat Party. But in order to win, they created the illusion that Trump was colluding with Russia. Whatever, something that they could have bent to make it look like there's evidence, the enemy gets things done. They set goals and agendas. And they set policy, and they usually give a time frame. Now, usually they're off on the time frame. So they were supposed to defeat us years ago. Now, Trump winning really put a stop on them, or a slowdown of them. I don't think Trump knows the amount of this. I don't think there's anybody around him that knows this. Knowing communism's the enemy is not enough. You have to know how they work. And you don't only get that by reading the theories of Marx. Sometimes you have to read what the communists are actually doing. When they're writing this, when they're saying that they work with the Soviets, they talk about getting stronger, getting more control of the schools and media in their writing. They talk about attacking us socially, culturally, politically, economically. They teach worldwide against imperialism. We have to crush world imperialism. They drum this in everybody's head. But after that, they say, and America is the leader of world imperialism. And then they opened the borders. They send us a virus first. That changes how we vote. They opened the borders, flooded us with heroin and fentanyl. They've been killing us by the hundreds of thousands with the fentanyl. This has been a war all along. Now, the fact that Trump is trying to start it, they're blaming Trump. These are the people who ignored it the whole time. So now people say narco-terrorist. Well, that's true. That's accurate. I think more important, they should be known as narco-Leninist, because these big drug operations were part of the warfare against us. Remember, armed conflict is the most primitive form of warfare. 2,500 years ago, that was written. The Chinese communists follow that, and look what they did. Look what the communists did. We end up now, we need our vitamins and medicine from communist China. We're dependent on this, we're dependent on that. Thanks to Trump, we're not dependent for energy, but we're very vulnerable. Because you got this world communist movement, they work all over the world, they work in all governments, even in fascist governments. The communists had people, the communists are able to get in places other people can't get. I don't know how they do it. We don't have anything on our side with that kind of fervor. So I'm flipping here. They're saying how things got better. Oh, the AFL-CIO. Years ago, the unions were on the left. They were on the liberal side, but in a good way, believe it or not. And then, of course, the communists targeted people like George Meany. And what came after that, low-level and mid-level union people, hardcore radicals. So when the communists get control of the schools, it's every school. They're in medical school. They're able to push racial communist subversion in medical school. They find ways to put it in everywhere, in everything. So the idea that here, this is the same thing where it talks about the Americans going to Cuba for training. Talk about the Cold War. Talking about people like us, the anti-communists. However, they could no longer use the weapon of anti-communism that served them so well during the Cold War years. As a result, the ruling circles have grabbed onto union corruption. They hope it will be their former Trojan horse to divide and split the labor movement. And they have had some success. Teamster President Kerry was charged with and subsequently removed from office without due process. Then the names of other trade union leaders allegedly guilty of misuse of union funds were floated in the mass media. You see what happened, though, after George Meany, which was a good guy, there was supposed to be, Kirkland. There were two guys. Kirkland. Oh, my God. I talk about these guys all the time. There were two guys that were supposed to follow in Meany's footsteps. Loyal Americans on the liberal side, but good, loyal people. They worked with unions and try to help people in countries overseas get a democratic union. That's gone. The communists got control of the leadership. And then the communists working with the unions talked about getting 100 trained professional organizers in every political district in America. Now, do you understand what that means? When I read you what the communists said in 81, that they're all united, they all follow the leader of the Soviets, You can't disconnect the Soviet Union and the socialist countries from the world revolutionary process. That's the American Communist Party, and all these other countries I read before, all part of the world communist movement. This is how they all work. This is how they all think. Years ago, they wrote about getting control of the treasure trove of minerals that are the West life support system. At that time, it was like Mideast oil and some of the minerals. So it turns out, under President Carter, we couldn't buy, I believe it was chromium, from South Africa, because South Africa had the apartheid government. So because the government was apartheid in South Africa, we couldn't buy their chromium. So the Soviets got that chromium, and we bought it from the Soviets for 6 times the normal price. But we showed them we weren't going to deal with the South African. What we did, we ended up buying it from the Soviets, and they charged us like 6 times the price. The enemy doesn't work like we do, and our side seems to have absolutely no clue. So it says here they could no longer use the Cold War anti-communism as a weapon. As a result, okay, goes on, left-center unity. This presents us with a big challenge, but a challenge that we can meet. For the first time, the left-center forces are dominant. Talking about in the trade unions and in America. The left-center forces are dominant. That goes back to yesterday's left is today's center. Today's left will be tomorrow's center. In that statement, that's a nugget. These are the things, if you read it, most people would read it, the words go in their ears, in their eyes, slips out somewhere else, that you're not grasping it. This is what people have to understand, how they work. They are serious about a revolution. And this movement murdered from 100 to 150 million people. When they write that all kind of warfare to defeat the capitalist system, everything is moral. So to them, the human trafficking, the sex trafficking, anything that's destructive, socially, culturally, politically, economically, the drug attack against us, that's why I call it narco-Leninism. Not that those criminals directly involved. Most of them are just criminals making money. But these things, these ideas, the structures, the connection, the legal help, that was all set up by communist intelligence. So here they're talking about becoming the left. For the first time, left-center forces are dominant. Center forces are increasingly becoming left. They are more and more attracted to us and accepting left and communist ideas. So they're admitting more people moving left. And now you got the majority of students in America, or youth, particularly in places like New York, look at socialism in a positive way. It says here, communist trade unions are playing a leading role in central labor councils around the country, which, by the way, are becoming more and more the main instruments to mobilize labor and its allies. This is talking about fighting in the electoral arena. The communists said they're working to defeat us without open conflict. That's primitive war, right? 2,500 years ago, Sun Tzu said that. This is not a mistake on my part. This is not an accident. This is not a coincidence. There's a hell of a lot of coincidences here to not think this is planned. A comes after B, C comes after B. That's not a coincidence. It was set up that way. When the communists write what their goals are, and then Shazam, they meet their goals. They're just usually a little late in the timing. So we're now in the struggle here where we're actually in armed conflict. And you know what? Some of this stuff I didn't have in a long time. As I'm flipping through it, I'm getting distracted here. Let me see what else I have. Now, we had a protest in New York the other day, in the streets of New York, and it was a group of people. It looked like a small group, and they were mourning the loss of the Iranian dictators. And it's a group, let me see here. First off, the mayor's supporters are getting crazy in New York. They're getting more militant and violent. We had a protest out here. There was a group that was said to be a right-wing white supremacist group protesting against Islamization. So there were Muslims out there that didn't want this, what they would think, anti-Muslim group. Little threats, I guess they got some fighting, but on the Muslim side, 2 guys who ended up arrested. and they said they looked like they might have ISIS connections. They threw some homemade bombs that didn't blow up. So you have the communists now waging open warfare in the streets, with the death of Floyd attributed wrongly, I believe, to a cop having his knee on the guy's neck, the way the police manual trained you. Because of Floyd's death, he didn't cause the riots. The rioters were already working. I read that elsewhere. When the communists write about past protests, past militant street action, when they write about it and they glorify it, they train people in it, and then they do it again. Like the Floyd riots, these people had experience with the Occupy Wall Street. Then there was the battle against the 2%, all of these movements. So that's what came out, because in the communist press they were reminiscing how successful, how, I don't know, I may have said even how much fun it was. The protest against the World Trade Organization, the protest against the Vietnam War, they're showing street action and how it helped move things, it helped bring victory. So you have, again, communist parties in every single country, all around the world, all working together, all coordinated, all networked, all in touch with each other. They all know what they're doing. They can manipulate here to have an impact there. They could make situations bad in some countries and then ease those people out and have their people here with their arms open, pulling them in. So there's people overseas pushing people out to get them to come here. And then they get out of where they are, they get here, there's people here bringing them in and helping them. This is not accidental. The virus came, it changes how we vote. There was questions about the mysterious machines and their odd ways of working. I mean, there's a lot going on here. And some people still think this is an accident. So there's an article here, and this is in Sunday's New York Post. Zopal's, that's for the mayor there, Zopal's rally cry for end of war. So this is about the protests against what Trump is doing in Iran. Mayor Mandami's comrades in the Democratic Socialists of America called for ending the U.S. empire and mourned the extrajudicial killing of the supreme leader during a mass call this week that slammed the U.S. strikes in Iran. This isn't going to end with a rally or a vote, warned Ahmad Hussein, a DSA leader on the party's National Political Committee, to the nearly 1,000 people who turned out Wednesday night, hands off Iran video call. This is going to end with a mass movement to put an end to the war machine, he vowed during the call, which started with a remake of Dylan's Masters of War protest song. We have to create a real cost for the warmongers, meaning America here. Hussein Insent, there's a picture of him here, an immigrant from Bahrain who has in the past raged on social media about destroying the decaying fascist American empire. So the communists call us fascists. It's in all their publications calling us fascists. That's what the communists do. They make it look like they fought fascism in World War II. They're victorious, and now they're going to fight fascism here. They call the Jewish leader of Ukraine fascist. And meanwhile, the Soviets did help Hitler. The Soviets helped Mussolini. So they actually fought. They actually caused the fascist revolt against the communist movement. So here's this guy, a radical Muslim, who's forcibly threatening here to have these militant protests. And let me see the last thing I have here. Let me get the light right. He wants to fight against the decaying fascist American empire, okay? He wants to destroy us and our allies. And that Israel never had the right to exist. Called on his comrades to step in. I'm not going to lie. I don't think the movement is where it needs to be right now to stop this war, he said. I don't care if it's your neighbor, your mother, your co-worker, your dad, your mom, your job, is to get them to act. The last paragraph. There are many people who are in deep mourning, said Isabella Javidan, a speaker from the National Iranian American Council, about last week's attack that took out Khamenei. Now, National Iranian American Council. That's very important here. Now, most people seeing this would have no impact on them. National Iranian American Council, the Iranian government officially said that the National Iranian American Council is a lobbying group for Iran. So the leaders, maybe the ones who now that were killed, the leadership of the Iranian government publicly, openly said, it's not denied, it's not deniable, nobody pays attention, so why it wouldn't hurt them. So the Iranian terrorist leaders with strong connections to the Soviets and with the world communist movement, so you have a communist party in every country that would be helping Hamas. That's basically how it works. So here you have this person from the National Iranian American Council, and that group is said to be controlled by Iran. So that's a terror group supporter here. And they're calling for revolution. I mean, this is incredible. So here you see the whole communist thing working with radical Islam. It's the Soviet hand in the Muslim glove. When you understand Lenin's party of a new type, that's the Communist Party. Communist Party, every country, all connected, all united. Keep that in mind. So they work politically, culturally, socially, economically, and they work throughout. They work through the schools, they work through the unions. They work at every level. So here you have this group that's openly declared by the Iranians to be their lobbying group. And this person here is talking about ending the war. Meanwhile, it's a lobbying group for the enemy. And this guy here wants to find ways to end it. This guy looks pretty rough here. And they say this is Zoe's pals. Now, the mayor's wife got a little questionable, little raised tempers a bit, because she posted something that wasn't respectful. I don't know how radical it was. I didn't actually read it. I'm not sure I had the right words to it. But she said something about the attack on Israel, like disputing, I guess, what actually happened. I don't know exactly what she said, but there was been a little bit of an uproar over that. Now, the same way, I hope I'm not boring people here, the same way I showed you, I proved to you from the enemy's publications, they're in every single country. In previous presentations here, I read you how the communists described the communist parties worldwide. They're actually in writing. They're all working together, same wavelength. There's connections this way, that way. You see here from their own publications, they're admitting they're in contact and touch. That's every country. Now, within every country, the same way on a global scale, they're all over the place. You see that. I just proved it to you. But on the internal scale, they're at every level all over the place too. And what they do is they work among every group. So they convince one group you're a victim because in 1858 this happened, or even 2010 something happened. Each group, they have to make feel that they're a victim. Sometimes there are real victims. But when they do this with every group, and the way the communists describe it, this is how you build a mass movement. You got to tailor the movement to the people you're trying to bring into the movement. The idea is always to bring people into the movement. Most of the time, it's under the guise of helping solve a problem that was affecting a particular group, past racial problems, past discrimination, past whatever. The idea is to make everybody feel like a victim and start getting an inward hate of the country, and the way they build it here, actually against white people. So here, American Communist Party now. I went through the ages there, okay, a little bit here, and that was just a random sample. Okay, this is 2005. Now, we defeated communism. And here's a publication, glossy. I mean, it's quality paper. This is not a cheap production here. This is from the American Communist Party. It's The Road to Socialism USA, Unity for Peace, Democracy, Jobs, and Equality, program of the Communist Party USA. So let me find some more instances in here, some quotes or something. Okay, this is the American Communist Party. We have elections. They're trying to show here how they got to build a movement, and it gets down here. The solution to this ultra-right domination lies in building the broadest, most inclusive unity among our multinational, male-female, multi-generational working class, starting with the labor movement, racially and nationally oppressed people, women and youth. We must unite lesbian, gay, and bisexual, transgender, and straight people, professionals and intellectuals, seniors and the disabled, and the mass people's movements, including the peace, environmental, healthcare, education, housing, and other movements. This all-people's front to defeat the ultra-right is in the process of developing, learning, and being tested in giant struggles for peace to protect social programs and services, to win health care for all, and to win control of all three branches of government from the right wing. So they complain about the right wing. They call us fascists, so they make us the enemy. So they create the illusion that the threat is from the right, because they equate what the conservatives are as fascist. And then with the propaganda and with the communists working on every group individually according to whatever weak spot I guess they have. Okay, so in here they're looking to win control of all three branches of government. But let me find it here. Give me a second. It lists the group they're working in. The list. It's like the other list was countries. So here this is a section on world balance of forces, how the left is winning here and there. International Front for Peace and Progress. That's all that international global. That's all communist, part of the communist movement. But they get to some very good stuff here. I'm trying to hold the phone on my head without my hand here. U.S. imperialism is the leader of world imperialism. U.S. imperialism is the leader of world imperialism and the home to the bulk of dominant transnationals. It seeks control over the entire planet, including its fellow imperialist powers. Again, it's against the ultra-right. Down here, this is the Communist Press, American Communist Party connected to the World Communist Movement, right? To get this, keep this in your mind, how this is working here. This is the American Communist Party, 2005. We share a common enemy, world imperialism, particularly U.S. imperialism. Its most reactionary transnationals and the governments they dominate. We support the broadest possible unity of the international working class. We also support international solidarity with other forces, peoples, and movements struggling for liberation worldwide. When the communists write about liberation, they're talking about communists getting control. So in America, you had the gay liberation, black liberations, women's liberation. That's just how the enemy works, folks. And here it's in writing. So I showed you it's a world movement. They have leadership. They have constant contact through their parties. The parties have to go out and influence opinions. Some go to the right wing and discredit the right wing. Some of them show up at the Stop the Steal rally in Washington and discredit from within. That was an operation, I believe. Antifa and other communists were there. And it was to discredit what's going on, and it's building a communist movement. This country is in trouble, folks. Now, Trump is trying to stop it, Latin America. I don't know, Russia, China, it's hard to deal with it. I just hope Iran clears up a little bit. So here they're saying we have a common enemy, and the whole world has to unite. And I showed you all those communist parties working together. They have missiles. They have all kind of capabilities. So now they're all working together. So I showed you the nations working together. I showed you the basic things that they're working toward. I gave instances of what they're saying and writing. I tied together. Okay, here. This is again a Communist Party here, 2005. The activity of the Communist Party is based on building full-class consciousness, which includes socialist consciousness. They're working on your brains, people. You don't understand. If you grew up in France, you'd be reading and writing and speaking in French. You'd be eating that food, which to me is a horrible thought. That's something else. culture is a way that you shape how people feel and think. You shape what they know. You shape what they think they know. And then they go out and vote from the opinion in their head that they got from information that was put out there. The enemy's smart enough to know if you get control of that information before it gets out there, you delete or you stop the accurate stuff. You keep people away from the mass media who understand communism. They don't get a chance to be heard. So they have ability to do that. And not only doing that, they push an alternative reality that we defeated communism. And now you got half the world that thinks America's the enemy. And meanwhile, the European Union, Gorbachev called the new European Soviet. So we think we win, and usually that's not the case. I'm wondering here, the attack on Israel, they knew there was going to be a response. Maybe they didn't know it was this big. Maybe this is what they want. We don't know yet. The enemy wanted this attack. There's no way they would do. They knew this sooner or later this would happen. It seems like they did this on purpose. Now, in the communist writings, the Weather Underground and those street revolutionaries in America used to talk about things like this, the way you have to work. So we're in the situation now. We have these two wars going on outside the country. We have this internal war. You got little kids in elementary school going out in the street protesting against ICE. We got people hating our police, hating our internal security, hurting patriotic Americans. So it's like a cancer. The communist cancer could get in a country and shape mass thought patterns, and this is what they write, change mass moods, mass thought patterns, and mass trends. They have the ability to move tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of voters. So they write that they have to change this. We have to have a peaceful transition to socialism through parliamentary means. We've got to get control of the means of education, the means of communication, and the means of information. You get control of that, you put out a product, you put out a citizen that's going to be like a robot voting like he's like an automated operation here. The person has left-wing propaganda put in their head, and they vote according to what the enemy put in their head. So the enemy put stuff in their head that would help the enemy. I mean, you got to understand this. They got their hand in your brain, and they win elections like this. That's the peaceful transition to socialism, and they always talk about it and write about it. So when Gorbachev took away the image of the enemy to strengthen the socialist, they mean communist forces in the capitalist countries. Now look what we have. We have American people in our government that wouldn't treat people that had a Trump flag or an American flag after the tornadoes. We have doctors and nurses who would refuse to treat police or ICE agents brought in for care. We have hospital workers, doctors and nurses who refuse to treat people they think are police. This is scary. The idea that everything is weaponized. When the American people are weaponized their own country, that's the power of the communist movement. So it's extreme, but look at the other extreme. We defeated communism. And now look at the mess we're in. 100,000 Americans a year were dying from fentanyl from communist China. Communist China sent us a virus that changed how we vote. Change how we vote, the border gets opened, the enemy penetrates. Is this all one set of coincidences? Of course not. It's impossible. And then when you see, like what I read here, you may not see a connection to what's going on today, but I showed you going on for many decades, you have this highly skilled, highly organized movement. They do fake collapses, they do fake splits. Under the guise of collapse, now we see they're stronger. And you had conservatives that became part of the communist movement that kept saying we defeated communism. So inadvertently, I hope it was inadvertently, they helped the communists without knowing it. Downplaying the threat. When you have the news on, and there's one of these wacky, dangerous Democrats saying real dangerous things, and the conservative media is laughing at them, like they're crazy or they're stupid, meaning the Democrat, the radical, that they're the ones crazy and stupid. And the conservatives sometimes are laughing. But when you see the old war movies, when you see newsreels about Hitler and World War II, you just see people laughing, So when the conservatives laugh, when you have somebody in our government that you see is clearly either insane or they're an enemy agent, you don't laugh. This is your government. This is life and death. This is war or peace. This is this world movement. I just laid it out. It's a world movement. And we got people in our country that are impacted by that movement. That movement, the world communist movement, they'll organize and coordinate things. They look to change mass moods, mass thought patterns, and mass trends. They look to win elections. Doesn't mean they'll fight fair, because anything is legal and moral if it helps to cause a communism. That's in writing. Not the words I use, but that's in writing in the communist publication. I read one of my other presentations here. So now we got to worry about Iran. So far, our military looks good. The weapons look good. Last I heard, it was 8 Americans died, which is a tragedy. And the media is going to keep looking at that number and hoping it goes higher. See, we don't show a graph. We don't show nuclear bomb possible, 10 million dead. That's one side. And the other side, we see 8 Americans who sadly died. But the enemy will just keep showing that number. Hopefully, for every reason, I hope that number doesn't go up. It's a tragedy we lost these good people here. The best of America died here, these soldiers. It's a shame because we don't get this right. A lot of the good work done by a lot of good people, it's going to be all like for naught. So I'm not sure now where I'm going here. Oh, this communist work, and I got to find all these groups here. Let me first see what this is. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. The publication I mentioned a few minutes ago, The Road to Socialism, Unity for Peace, Democracy, Jobs, and Equality. This is 2005 American Communist Party. This is the summary. The problems of exploitation, oppression, and survival facing humankind can only be solved ultimately by the elimination of this exploitative system of capitalism. Our survival depends on a transformation to socialism. The U.S. working class, with a long revolutionary history and many powerful mass movements and organizations, has the potential to make this transition happen. That means building unity for peace, for protecting and expanding democracy, for living wage jobs, for universal health care, for real equality of all those who are nationally or racially oppressed, and women, for an end to the political control of the ultra-right over our political institutions, and for an end to the economic rule of the transnational corporations, building and strengthening organizations and alliances between the working class and its allies, winning real unity in the course of struggle is the path from our struggles towards socialism. It's a path from our current struggles towards socialism. A communist party is essential for Marxists to test revolutionary theory through practice. We are not a debating society wrangling over obscure text. We are a political movement, and we welcome all who accept our program. As Marx said, the philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it. The Communist Party USA is about changing the world. Now, if this were a courtroom, what kind of rebuttal would the left have? They could argue anything. What I laid out here, this is their own publications. It's a world movement, they claim. It was headed by the Soviets. It still largely is now, of course, it's China. But this is so broad, it doesn't need a strong central control. Look, Iran's top government was wiped out. They're still fighting. There's ways to build things. There's words to build, like a resiliency. And even if, or when, God, I hope when we defeat the enemy in Iran, we don't know what comes next. A communist party is in every country. maybe some of the protests in the street may have had organized communists among them. I don't know. There's no clue, no evidence. I'm just saying wherever there's masses, the communists go. They have to influence masses. They have to influence bad people to discredit our side. In other words, get among our people and get us to prod somebody to do something wrong. We got assassination attempts on the president. You had foreign governments flooding us with drugs, heroin, fentanyl. We have foreign governments funding revolution in the streets. We have a guy like George Soros that's involved at every level of this revolution in writing it, social, cultural, political, economic. We were heading toward economic doom. We were heading where we're going to be cut off from the world's minerals that we need. We had the borders open. This was the final push. And meanwhile, the enemy, and I'm not an expert on this, but of course, Jeff Nyquist, Trevor Loudon, Johnny Anderson, Lee, the military part is where I don't have all the information or understanding. But the military with the political, social, culture, economic, all combined, the enemy's working on all fronts. The idea was to win without fighting. That's what the communists always wrote about. To achieve that, they built a massive peace movement in America. That peace movement works to weaken us, to make us not be prepared. We couldn't build an anti-missile defense system. That's the peace movement working with the Soviets. At the same time, the Soviets are increasing and modernizing their missiles and nuclear capabilities, their platforms, and they're modernizing the whole structure. Now, right now, it doesn't look good. They're not able to fight the Ukrainians. We don't know how much information we're seeing. We don't know if what we're seeing is accurate. This is very strange things going on all over the world. I mean, people believe the virus came here just in time for the election. They got the students lost 1 or 2 years of their lives. The turmoil here, the Floyd riot, which that court was coordinated and organized before the riot. And they're writing, when they're reminiscing how powerful they were ending the Vietnam War with protest. They write about Occupy Wall Street, the other one, there's a couple of them like that big mass movement. And then they say if Trump tries to steal the election, we're going to come out bigger, better, more organized than ever. That's the organized thing, totally organized nationwide beforehand. That's what came out when Floyd got killed. That was a spark. So that was not the cause. The rioters were already organized. They're able to bring people out. They say they chase mass moods, mass thought patterns, have the ability to move hundreds of thousands, millions of voters. They have a whole large of the black population in America that are kind of in the mindset constantly of slavery and oppression. And meanwhile, as people come from Africa, when they come here, they can't believe the freedom we have. We have some people here that are influenced by the left. We had a case in New York, I don't know, was it a year or two ago, with some crazy white guy with a rifle, shot 11 people. I think 10 of them were dead. I think 11 were shot and 10 were dead, and they were black. And the shooter was white, and he was called the fascist. But that shooter, in his notes, and I guess in his statements, I know he wrote it, I'm not sure if he said this publicly, I don't know if they asked him, the shooter, the racist who shot those 10 or 11 people, innocent people, and killed 10 of them, the shooter, I believe it was upstate New York, he self-identified as being a known communist up there. Everybody knew he was a communist. And then he slept into, what's the other word? My mind just went blank. There's another term, he was a communist. Then he became a national Bolshevik, okay? Bolshevik is communist. National Bolshevik is like National Socialist. Hitler was a National Socialist. So I see a little bit of a trick, funny little confusion there. You have communist, and then he went from being a communist to National Bolshevik. National Bolshevik, Bolshevik is communist, so he'd be a national communist as opposed to a world international communist. But National Socialist is what National Bolshevik also means. National Socialist was what Hitler was. So they became, maybe not from that, maybe this, what I'm saying now, is part of it. Maybe this is just another string of coincidences. The enemy wanted to build the illusion of a right-wing threat just at the same time as they're increasing their strength. So they'll put together right-wing groups, whether real right-wing or people pretending or people just doing things for the money. Remember, decades ago, the Soviets in training camps were training neo-Nazis and communists, training them terror, explosives, stuff like that, and then sending them into the country of Turkey. So communists and Nazis, terrorists, young people into the countries to create terror and fight each other. The idea is to make total chaos, make total confusion, make things so hard that the police would have to get stronger and tougher, the military have to get tougher and stronger. They'd have to clamp down to save the country. That clampdown then is going to be accused of being a fascist country. This is why the communists do this, because once they create the illusion that they're fighting fascism, more people will join in. So the communists, in effect, create the fashion, what they call fascist. They create that in order to get the masses to help them fight the fascist. This is amazing. It's amazing, and it works. So now anybody who's anti-communist, they call fascist, but now anybody who's not for communist, they call fascist. I told some liberal guy the other day, President John F. Kennedy today could not be a Democrat. He was, I think, pretty mainstream, a little on the liberal side. I thought he was patriotic. He did some things wrong. I know, he got some things wrong. He may have did some things wrong, but he seemed like a guy that was American. I had no doubt he was on our side. May have had bad people around him, but everybody does. So I try to get through the ages here, the years, and I hope at some point this starts clicking in people's minds. This movement is permanent. Even if Ukraine wins and the communists lose, even if Taiwan stays free for now, even if we take back the House, the Senate, the presidency, all of that, the enemy is still there. Sometimes they play dead. Sometimes they're weak and they don't make a fuss, but they're always building. They're always working. It's like termites in a wooden house. They never stop. It's like a pedophile never stops looking for what they look for. This is constant. And the enemy, it's well-funded, well-trained, well-thought out. They got control of people's minds. It's the radicalization process they talk about. It's the yesterday's left is today's center. Today's left will be tomorrow's center. They talk about the peaceful transition. So the peaceful transition, yesterday's left is today's center. Do you see this yet? This is how they work. And the thing is, it's so big, and it's all out in the open, that people don't see it. Most people don't see it. But where are the conservative media people? Because they've been hearing me all these years. Anyway, you know what? I never got to the names here. Let me just flip to this real quick. Again, this is the Road to Socialism USA from 2005. Okay. Where's this start? Oh, this is a big one. They're listing here all the groups they work in. My God, it's the whole alphabet. Okay, let me start somewhere randomly here. These are the countries now. These are the people in this country that they're working in, okay? The big one, the first one, African Americans. Teach about the history and how bad they're oppressed. And, it adds up the only way is to socialism. So, African Americans, Mexican Americans, Puerto Ricans, these are different sections here. American Indians, other indigenous peoples, immigrants, Asians and Asian Americans, Arabs and Middle East peoples. These are the different groups in America. The complexity and interconnection of national and racial oppression, the struggle for full equality for women, youth and students, gays and lesbians, farmers and rural population, seniors, the Jewish people, and anti-Semitism, social movements for progress. These are all groups and movements, how they pull them together. They put out a wide net. They write about the progressive culture, healthcare struggles. They're involved in everything. Progressive and democratic religious movements, international solidarity and struggle for peace. Fighting against the ultra-right. Again, the threat is the ultra-right. So here's the communist movement that murdered from 100 to 150 million people. Communist movement admits they're highly organized, well-trained, very successful. They move 10,000, 100,000, millions of voters. They brag about the immense power they have. They're in every country working together for unity, love, peace, transnational love, whatever the hell they're into here. And every group they work in, they teach the groups all the negative parts of history, and they make all groups feel oppressed. And of course, the solution is only to the end goal, socialism. This is how this is what the communists write. Let me see here. Okay. This is in that one here again, Road to Socialism from 2005, American Communist Party. The ultra-right in the U.S. justifies its terrorist aggression and interference in many countries under the banner of freedom for all peoples. It claims that when all countries have freedom, the result will be world peace. It is not hard for people around the world to understand that the United States has no right to define freedom for them, nor to impose capitalist austerity measures to guarantee the freedom of capitalist investment and transnational domination, nor to impose any form of government against the will of the majority of people of a country. So this is teaching people around the world that they're the victim. So first I showed you how all the different parties around the world work together. So that's a global thing. That's the macro. That's the global thing. Each country has a communist party. And that communist party is a Leninist party of a new type. Each member in that party has to go out and influence mass moods, mass thoughts, mass trends to exert pressure and influence wherever you're told to go. They penetrate the enemy to discredit it. They push their policies. They also push movements to support policies. It's in every country working together, but what they have at the same time is a mass movement create the illusion of a right-wing threat. So the whole world is looking from the right for the threat. And the communists keep saying fascist. That makes people equate conservatism or mainstream, what used to be mainstream, as being fascist or like Nazi. So the enemy creates the illusion that they're the saviors. They're the saviors of humanity and the world. Peace, love, socialism, and justice and harmony, that type of stuff. But at the same time, they're discrediting the other side. So let me see what I have here. While the Democratic and Republican parties are both capitalist institutions, they are not identical. The ultra-right currently dominates the Republican Party. The Democratic Party is not only its national leadership, it has been the main mechanism used by African Americans and Latino American communities to gain representation, as well as the main mechanism used to elect labor, progressive, and even left activists to public office, especially at the local level. There exists an internal struggle within the Democratic Party between the centrist forces who collaborate with the right wing and centrist forces who oppose to the right wing. Those opposed to the right wing are often willing to align with progressive elements that seek to defeat the program of the ultra-right. There are struggles both within the Democratic Party and within the labor movements that are reflective of the overall struggle to gain political independence from corporate dominance. Any serious strategy that hopes to win millions of people toward more advanced political program must relate to these struggles. They're working on changing millions of people, guiding how millions of people in America think and how they vote. They admit it's a world movement. It's connected all over the world. 100 to 150 million people murdered. Sent us a virus, sent us heroin, sent us fentanyl. There was World War, Vietnam War, Korean War. You had the Soviet connection, building the Muslim terror movement, building the drug cartels to destroy America, working within America through the communist parties, working through every country around the world through their communist parties. It's all Lenin's party of a new type. all faced the leadership of the Vanguard Party, the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. There's no more Soviet Union. It's Red Chinese Party. Okay, it was China and Russia are partners. It's one world movement. This is the mess we're in. Now, what do we do about it?
Well, Jimmy, it's more than just China and Russia. It's all of the countries in BRICS are working together against.
Yeah, it's the whole world. You're right. See, that's the economic thing. Socially, culturally, politically, economically. The drug operation alone touches on those four goals there. It affects us socially, culturally, politically, economically. The drug operation alone has an impact on four of those things that are stated goals of the communists. That's war without firing a shot. That's the peaceful transition to socialism, to parliamentary means. That poor guy that defected or tried to warn us, nobody paid attention to him, Anatoly Golitsyn. The words he wrote is word for word what was written in the Soviet publications through parliamentary means, building a mass movement. It's in writing and they carry it out. They don't hide about it. You could probably, I don't know about Googling it, but the information's out there. I just happen to have more information. I have so many Soviet communist documents here. The American people, they have no problem with the communists having victory celebrations against us here in America. The 10th anniversary of the communist victory in Vietnam was celebrated in New York City at the Washington Irving High School. Celebrating the communist victory in Vietnam, celebrating that we lost the war. That communist celebration, the main speaker was Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson built the Rainbow Coalition, which was part of the All People's Front. That's the black, Hispanic, the Asian, the gays, the lesbian. That's all the stuff that Democrats work with. All these small groups, and each group forms a party and a movement that grows, and then they're all pulled together. All those disparate, all those different groups pulled together, and they vote Democrat Party. Because the Democrat Party now is basically taken over by the Marxoids and communists on the road to communism. So I showed you how globally the macro is all those countries in the world working together. Then they showed you I guess, on the global micro, how in an individual country, how the communist movement is divided. So I just read here, the Puerto Rican, African Americans, Asian Americans, Filipino, which should be in with the Asian American, Hispanics, women, labor, gays, lesbians. So the same way that the communists did a broad thing around the world, one party or more in every country, locally, like in America, you have the Communist Party working among every group. In New York, you have more different ethnic, racial, and religious groups. The communists are working on all of them at every level. So when you add it up, it's a mess. And that's not counting the idea of the missiles, the ongoing war in Ukraine. Ukraine is the victim. I don't understand why people are rooting against Ukraine, but the people rooting against Ukraine, there's people like that, maybe them, who are rooting against America. You could see the Democrat Party, when they're talking, all these congressmen, senators, you could see they want us to lose. Now, some people call it the Trump derangement syndrome. Well, there was no Trump derangement syndrome until he became president. So it's not his personality that have this thing. The communist might use whatever personality quirks he has that some people don't like. If the enemy wants you to hate somebody, in this case, the enemy wants you to hate Trump. So how are you going to get people who are patriotic Americans to hate Trump when Trump is doing the right things politically? Well, the left will say, try to put him as part of sexual molestations like Bill Clinton. They try to get that in people's minds. They try to get him involved with the Epstein name. They're trying at every level to discredit this guy, because it's hard to complain, but they do complain about his immigration policies. The enemy's influence in this country, they're getting you to hate the one guy who has the ability, if he had all the right information, to really change things in our favor. I think stopping the drug cartels is good. It sounds too good to be true. I just hope it all works. The same with the Ukrainians getting weapons and the Russians losing. So being that I don't know the military part as well and deep as maybe I should, I have friends that do, and what I'm hearing from them, it's kind of frightening. I was not as aware of some of the stuff that they're aware of. I mean, the Russians have been constantly building. But see, I would look, when people look at the weaponry and missiles and stuff, I understand that's important, but I know other people are handling that. The people I know, Johnny, Jeff, Trevor, the people I know that part. But I would look at, like, for instance, with all these companies and factories that are building and they're going to open up in America thanks to Trump, that's going to create millions and millions of new jobs. Now, the unions will be salivating over that because the unions right away see millions of more union workers. So the enemy would try to stop us from succeeding. They would try to stop us from getting the jobs because they want our economy to slip and slide and fall, because they're all working to bring us down and put in the socialist utopia. It's working at every level. It's not just communists. You got like Marxists who maybe don't understand communism, possibly socialists. You have labor, liberals. It's a mass movement. They want to win elections, and we're now. I hate to think that there's a problem in Iran. I just hope not. I know the military is great military, great weapons. I just think those countries, like, it looks like it looks like somebody wanted that war to happen. Somebody on the Iranian side. Now, Iran was toppled by the communist parties. That's in Soviet publications. Communist movement, okay? It doesn't mean they're all communist party. They toppled the Shah of Iran. They had a world movement to liberate Iran. Meanwhile, Iran was a bulwark against Soviet expansionism. So the Soviets' goal was to get rid of Iran. People in Iran, maybe some of them wanted to get rid of the government, but it was basically a communist movement. Communists in this country influencing the outcome. Reagan tried to save Iran, tried to save Nicaragua. The Democrats here working with the communists. The media influence from the communists, the Institute for Policy Studies, KGB front group of Washington, influencing newspapers, magazines, news services. They train students. They train people who work for congressional and Senate staffs. You had all this enormous pressure, the enemy working within, without, the weapons build up. It's a pretty scary time, and you can't ignore any of it. And I think these coming elections, we immediately have to make sure we don't lose these coming elections. At all costs, whatever money, whatever people could go out, knock on doors, call your friends. The more you people understand this stuff, the more people you really grasp it. And I'm not saying you won't grasp it or you don't grasp it. I don't know. I don't know you people personally. But anybody, once you see it, once you read the stuff, which I spent many years, some people think I wasted many years of my life doing it, but when you understand this stuff, it's like if you learn how to speak French, when you hear somebody speaking French, you understand them. You started out knowing French before you met the French person. Well, people don't understand communism. You're not born with it. You got to pay attention what they're doing and saying. It's very simple. But when the enemy took away the image and people started saying we defeated communism, defeated communism, all the good, smart, cold warriors, the people who understood it, most of them just died off happy thinking that they won, that their life is ending, and it's ending with the defeat of communism. They were misled. So the threat is bigger than it was, because you have the component of the globalists, the global movement, the UN, all of these agencies, all of these NGOs. So you're being attacked on all sides. And then, of course, people who claim that are said to be crazy. Well, that's one of the problems here. In the Soviet Union, anybody who opposed the communist movement was declared insane, and they were locked up. And you see how the Democrats here, working like the Soviets, tried to do that to Trump. Like get him out of office on, 25th Amendment? So, speaking of Jesse Jackson, I read this before, but I didn't read too much of it. There was a Marxist Scholars Conference, and let me see here, Louisville, Kentucky, and it's titled, this was in the New York City Tribune, which was a sister paper of the Washington Times. Marxists agree on their top goal, make Jackson #1 Democrat. So the Communist Party was planning to help Jesse Jackson become president. They may not have thought he could become president, but they know he'd build the movement. He'd make the movement bigger. So without getting all the long details there, Jesse Jackson, the American Communist Party did a fake split. The fake split of the American Communist Party left the main faction of the Communist Party. The split party leaves, and they get together with Freedom Road Socialist Organization, various Marxist and communist groups I really thought were obscure. They got together with Rainbow Coalition. They called themselves the Committees of Correspondence, which in the Revolutionary War, the Committees of Correspondence were patriots touring the country promoting rebellion against Britain. So by these communists call themselves Committees of Correspondence, they're spreading the revolution. So here they wanted Jesse Jackson to be the top one, to be the top Democrat. But let me get to something interesting here. Now, one of the speakers was Ron Daniels. Ron Daniels was with the Center for Constitutional Rights. That's a communist group, the same way the Institute for Policy Studies, American Civil Liberties Union, all of those communist-fronted communist groups. So this is part of it. So the Rainbow Coalition, they say here, most speak. Remember, this is a Marxist Scholars Conference, and this is Louisville, Kentucky. They're talking about the peaceful transition. Here it is. Conference emphasis focused upon the topics as Marxist and religious activism for social and economic justice, the Rainbow Coalition, and penetration of American politics and mass organizations. Most speakers for the Rainbow Coalition emphasized the importance of radical penetration of American electoral, legislative, and politics in order to come to power. Okay, so that's the Rainbow Coalition emphasizing that they have to penetrate the government and get control or power in the legislative and electoral and politics as they come to bring them to power. But then it goes on to say, however, in contrast, I may get the name wrong, C.G. Stroley of Gulfport, Mississippi, lectured on, quote, the shortcomings in the theory of nonviolence. So one part of this communist movement, supporting Jesse Jackson and to build the movement and get to the legislature, win power, politics, and everything. But somebody else at this meeting says here, according to this report by this newspaper, however, in contrast, C.G. Struley of Gulfport, Mississippi, lectured on, this is in quotes now, the shortcomings in the theory of nonviolence. Struley declared that a violent revolutionary struggle for socialism is inevitable. Armed struggle is the only way we are going to change the system. They are not going to legislate capitalism out of existence. Plenary session speaker Ron Daniels, a former general director of the Rainbow Coalition and a campaign manager for Jesse Jackson, has postulated that both ballots and bullets are necessary to bring about a new world order. So this whole thing here, all of these communists, all of these mass movements, mass groups, this is here. It's in our face. So that was the 10th anniversary celebration, communist victory in Vietnam at the, what's that high school there? My God, I just said it. But the 25th anniversary of the communist victory in Vietnam was at the Stephen Wise Synagogue on West 68th Street in Manhattan. I was there. This was a huge event. You had foreign embassy people, ambassadors speaking at this event, celebrating the victory in Vietnam against the Vietnamese people and against America. So on this flyer here, Sunday, April 30, 2000, 25th anniversary of the victory of peace in Vietnam, a celebration and rededication. Stephen Wise Free Synagogue, 30 West 68th Street. That's like right off Central Park. So they got a letter here on the front page from Ho Chi Minh thanking them for their work. Inside, you see the sponsors and endorsers. There's a lot of powerful people, a lot of groups. I was there. The main speaker at the podium was Angela Davis, well-known accused cop killer. Ran for president with Gus Hall. Gus Hall running for president. Angela Davis ran as vice president. She was a strong supporter of Fidel Castro. She supported terror. Angela Davis was a communist. She ran as a communist for the vice presidential seat below Gus Hall. Another presidential election, Gus Hall ran for president. John Brennan, who ended up heading the CIA, voted for the communists. Listen, we're penetrated deep, and it's very serious, and that is weapons aimed at us. Our weapons look good now. I'm not a military guy, but what I'm studying here is frightening. So I would urge people, what you learn here, spread the message, get more information, play this over. When anything you're learning, you got to go over it again. You know, if you're throwing a baseball, you got to keep working. You got to keep throwing, change your grip. You got to look all different angles. If you're pitching, it's that way. Soccer, basketball, learning dental work, whatever skill, whatever field, you have to learn it. You have to learn it. You have to understand it. But we're in the battle now where we need more people that understand it. We need people at the top. We don't have that. We may not get that. But I can reach people maybe in the middle. People that listen to this show, maybe these people could reach higher up. We need a mass movement. So the communists built a mass movement, working 150 years at least. So they're working to build a mass movement. They've been slowed here and there, never been stopped, never been defeated. The Soviets fake a collapse, and all the communist parties worldwide get more power, more influence. Now there's a pushback here, what Trump's doing. I hope he's right. I want him to be right, Trump. And I hope we win. I just don't write the enemy off so easily, because you're not going to kill them all. So as the founding fathers preached and lectured, we need eternal vigilance. And I don't think I've heard that quote in decades with all the conservative people I read and hear. Eternal vigilance, if my memory is correct.
Eternal vigilance is the slogan for USA Homeland Security, my old company in New York City.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. That used to be part of our belief system.
Right, it's right on the sleeve of the shirt. Eternal vigilance. Yep.
That's right. And we got people like Lee here. You have me. Trevor Loudon has a great website where he's compiled information on people, all stuff that was documented. You can look up your congressman, your senator, see what communist connections they have or might have. Because he has a lot of the radical groups here. He shows the connection between various communist and various Marxist type groups working with the radical Muslims. It's a huge movement. It's mass thought power. Now there's weapons. There's been drugs involved. People think we're starting a war. We're just now starting to fight back. We've been at war.
Right.
You keep punching somebody in the face, and then if he throws the punch, he's escalating. So they can shoot missiles into Ukraine all they want. But Ukraine can't do the same thing back to Russia. That's escalation. You see how you get handcuffed?
Yep.
Anyway,
you've been here for 2 hours, my friend. You want to keep going? You want to come back later this week? What would you like to do?
Well, I still have a lot of things I want to get together. I've been moving stuff out of here. I had to divide stuff for security reasons. I have them in 3 separate places, so God forbid if anything happens. So I've been kind of in an upheaval. I'm finding things I forgot I had, real interesting stuff. But I have a lot of stuff specifically about the Soviets with the Muslims. That's exceedingly important. When they talk about spreading the intifada and stuff like that, when the Palestinian Communist Party is praising the PLO, you realize the PLO is a branch of the Communist Party.
Well, the PLO was originally funded by the KGB.
Yeah, in fact, I found here in my stuff, Congressman McDonald, before the Soviets killed him, used to have a publication. He was reporting on enemy operations. And when Israel went into Lebanon in 83, was it, or 82? I think it was 83. They captured a lot of documents, and this congressman got them, and then he published a report on it. And I have it here somewhere with me, but it was kind of like too much to do like this, holding the phone. But there's, let me see if I have it here. I know it's around me here somewhere.
Well, find it and we'll look at it the next time.
Here it is. Here it is. Listen. Okay, just real quick. There's a whole lot. There's a whole pages here, but This is from the reports that the Israeli military got when they went into Lebanon in 1982 or 3, whatever it was. This section is Education of the PLO. During the last 15 years, more than 1,000 PLO officers and non-commissioned officers have attended military schools all over Arab and communist world. Captured documents show this in considerable detail. Major Fasul Mahmoud Ashika, I'm probably butchering that name, Yosef, his number, has graduated from the Red Chinese Military Academy and has taken a regimental commander course in Moscow, the staff office course in Pakistan, as well as technical courses in Iraq and Syria. Lieutenant Atman, with his number, whatever number that is, took the platoon commander's course in Moscow. They got this all listed. They got names, different things taught. So the Chinese here were working with the Soviets when supposedly there was a Soviet-China split. There's so much here that has to be corrected. I guess, you know what, at this point, maybe we don't even touch this because now we're at an immediate battle. This stuff here is stuff that should have been known. If people knew this stuff here, here's something else, okay? This is the report about the captured documents. This is titled Assisting the Terrorists. Since overrunning PLO strongholds in southern Lebanon, the Israelis have made available many pages of PLO documents incontrovertibly proving the Soviet Union and its Cuban, Vietnamese, and Warsaw Pact satellites are now directly involved in the training, equipping, and advising of PLO terrorists. It goes on to mention that Arafat continued the emphasis on PLO coordination with key Soviet international fronts, stating, "We maintain coordination with the Afro-Asian People's Solidarity Committee, with the World Peace Council, and other international institutions such as the Democratic Lawyers of America." These are all KGB-controlled groups. So this is a load of documents here. Like I said, it's too much. It's all PLO. It's all Soviet. I'm flipping the pages.
Let's do another show later this week, and we'll talk about the PLO and their relationship to the KGB and the fact that Putin gave Hamas $100 million or $200 million a couple weeks before his birthday, which is October 7th, and that Hamas attacked Israel on Putin's birthday.
Yeah, it's another coincidence. You know, at some point, if I have 5 enemies and one dies, then another dies, that's a coincidence. The third die. When you start getting like 3, 4, you get up to 2. You know, at some point, there can't be all coincidences. Look at all the coincidences we live with here concerning the enemy, and all of the coincidences and things help the enemy. So far.
Yep.
I guess Trump upset everything. I mean, we still have a chance. Well, there's still always a chance that we won't make it.
So you
don't want to think that, but you got to know it's possible. But Trump is the first one that seems to realize, even though he doesn't have all of it, in my opinion, right. There's never been an attempt to try to turn everything around all over the world like he's trying to do, without having an anti-communist movement behind him.
Yep.
This should have been started from the bottom up. This is where the conservative media could have played their part. It didn't have to get this bad, the situation with the enemy and us.
Right.
Anyway, I'm grateful for this time. I hope people spread the word. Listen to everything Lee does. Everything you present, Lee, has got to be listened to. We do other interviews. I did about 20 with jrnyquist.blog. I think one of the most important things is Lenin's party of a new type. Understanding how the communist parties work, they wouldn't have this power without that. It's in every country, and they influence everybody. I meet people in the street. I get in a lot of conversations. People are haranguing me about the Epstein files and Trump. And I say, right now I'm more worried about the 100,000 Americans who die every year from the fentanyl. And they say, what? They didn't know that. They say, well, I don't want that either, and they walk away. So there's a lot of facts that if they've just got out there, if the media was just neutral, they don't even have to be on our side, just be neutral, we wouldn't be in this mess either. And there was no conservative antidote to that. There was no competing other than talk radio and a few people here and there. Anyway, Lee, you're gonna get this out. We're gonna wake up millions and millions of people. It should be easier now with all the stuff going on. It should be easier if they hear it explained. And the only reason I know it, I read the enemy's publications. Anybody could do it. I don't know if anybody's doing it for decades like I did. Anyway, Lee, I'm always...
Hey, Jimmy, there's nobody like you, buddy.
I appreciate that.
Yep, there's nobody like you. All right, Jimmy,
You
call
too,
me
buddy.
back. Let me. So you're doing a show tomorrow with Trevor and Jeff and Johnny, right?
It's every Wednesday.
Yeah.
We aim for 3 o'clock. Usually it's later, and sometimes afterward we talk. You know, the talk afterward, the conversation between us is interesting.
Oh, you bet you're
Like
right.
I said, they know the military part, so when they're talking, I really can't add much, even though it's all connected. But the picture they present militarily to me is frightening. It's like I'm on a position almost of overload because I know the threat from what I know.
Yep.
That's not counting the military part.
Roger that. All right, well, Jimmy, give me a call anytime this week. Now, Thursday
Yeah, we'll do it.
afternoon, I'll be with Jeff and Johnny. But after that, if you want to give us a call, or tomorrow after you're done, whatever you want to do, you call us. We'll hook you up and get you in.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. God bless. And listen, check out KeyWiki, Trevor Loudon's site. Look up your congressman, senator, spread the word. Spread the word about this show, all the shows on here with the Lee. Whatever Lee's doing, good work. I know some of the people he works with, great people, the best. Take care, everybody. God bless. God bless America. Good night.
All right. Thank you, Jimmy. Have
Bye-bye.
a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.